Our Highline Voices, 106.5 KQWZ LPFM.
Connecting Highline and our region.
History, cultural heritage, art, performances, contemporary pop culture.
We collect, preserve, and tell the stories of the Highline region and its people.
We want to embrace our differences and similarities.
We want to extend our mission outside the walls of the museum. Our Highline Voices, 106.5 KQWZ LPFM.
Hi everyone, this is Nancy from the Highline Heritage Museum and welcome back. Today we have a wonderful person. I'm excited for him to share his story and who he is. As always, why are we doing this project? To connect with each other, to know who are our neighbors, who is around us. The idea of just telling the stories that are not just inside the museum is something that we're passionate about. Why? Because it's all about preserving, connecting, and truly just get to know each other. So before I start, just want to say thank you, Alejandro, for the opportunity. Yeah. This is a joy and a pleasure to have you here. And as always, I'm just going to ask one simple question and then we'll take it from there. Alejandro, are you ready?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so tell us who you are and then what you do. We'll take it from there.
So I'm Alejandro Grajal. I'm the president and CEO of the Woodland Park Zoo in Seattle, just north of the city. I've been here for almost 10 years now to the month. And glad to be here.
Yay.
Wonderful.
Yeah. Why the zoo? What is it? Why is the reason that you're in the zoo?
So I'm a biologist, so that kind of explains a little bit that I've always been interested in animals. And I've been working in zoos for almost 20 years now.
Okay.
So the idea of coming to Seattle was mostly Woodland Park Zoo has been one of the preeminent zoos in North America and around the world. It's been a leader in its industry. It's not the biggest or the biggest collection or the biggest attraction or even the biggest area, but it's a zoo that since the 1980s have been at the leading edge of innovation in our industry. So when the opportunity showed up to come to one of these leading institutions, that was very attractive. And of course, we didn't know Seattle at that time, but the region is just a fantastic piece of North America that is supremely interesting. So the combination of the region, the Puget Sound, Seattle, and the Woodland Park Zoo heritage and innovation, it was very attractive. So that brought me here.
Seattle and the Pacific Northwest is such a beautiful contrast for me. I mean, there's, the opportunity to have the forest and then the water and then the ecosystem that comes with it. Yeah. But the zoo is a reflection of the many different ecosystems globally and maybe they're just a little glimpses of what is out there. So are you always been, ever since you were a kid, you always been interested in zoos?
Yeah, it's interesting. So I have a kind of I would say a complicated life in that I was actually born in Spain when I was a kid, when I was 9 years old, my family emigrated to Venezuela at that time. Spain economy was in shambles because of the Civil War and World War II and all that. And so we came to Venezuela and it was like, for me as a kid, going like from a black and white movie to a Technicolor movie. Venezuela is a beautiful country, spectacular. And that's where I grew up. I did all my school and university years there. So yeah, it's a fascinating story. And then as I came here to the US for graduate school, my specialty is in international conservation. So my interest is Latin America and the Caribbean. And that's where I've worked all my life. So I pretty much visited every country in the hemisphere, and I know some of the countries in the region better than people from those countries.
Wow.
So I'm very happy that my professional life has been to basically discover and work in natural environments all my life. It was later in my professional life that I got involved in zoos and uh, ended up in New York at the Bronx Zoo, where I
Okay.
was doing international conservation, and then in Chicago at Brookfield Zoo in the suburbs of Chicago, and I stayed there for almost 12 years,
Wow.
and then that's where I came here from Chicago. So
There's really dramatic locations, meaning dramatic in the sense of weather and then where is that located. And I'm
yeah,
sure that this is all combinations of things. What I like about your location and your zoo is just the sense of, and you're right, maybe it's not the biggest one or this and that, not that I know, but based on
mhm.
what you're saying, but it's something really special about it as you walk through it, the space. And I can feel it not just with the animals or the location and the designs or how you bring the information into the public, but it's also your staff. We have been having the joy and pleasure of working with your staff before in a couple projects already, and it's been just beautiful. And I was delighted last year when we hosted this program where we inviting kids to come and design a Cambodian. I forgot what project was it, but it was a project that we did last year. And but one of the things that I just will not forget is being on that table with the youth, and they really intentional, really mindful in bringing those stories up and being able to them leading the youth, making us authentic as possible, all the different projects. So it's really rare when I find that. It's
Yeah,
really rare when normally when you're an organization, you want to take more of the ownership.
yeah.
Like, oh, we want to control more the product, we want to control the voice. Why? Because it's our reputation, it's integrity, it's our memberships, all kinds of different reasons as to why you want to take a little bit of ownership. But when it comes from a place in a really authentic approach, it really feels that. And that's something that I was like, it gives me chills when we work with your staff. And you know, we are here in Burien and in a museum setting, but it's still the values and the extension of who you guys are as a family, as a team, as a community. It was extended in many beautiful ways. So I'm just want to say congratulations for that. It's
Well,
great.
I'm very proud and happy that you noticed that because on the surface, for most people, the zoo is a cultural construct. I mean, people have an expectation of what a zoo means. And when I tell people that Woodland Park Zoo has been thriving in innovation and new approaches to our industry, to our theme, it's in the parts that are not very well seen, are the kinds of things that you just described. This idea of abandoning what I call the institutional ego, the idea that you need to have your brand and your story all the time, that the story transforms through the visitor's eyes. There's this transition. I usually talk about it, the idea that the transition for museums and zoos and botanic gardens, for that matter, is that you stop teaching and you allow people to learn. And that transition from being a didactic kind of domineering personality in being a big cultural institution like the zoo and transitioning to being a facilitator of learning, to a facilitator of your own stories, to develop your own learning and your own stories and your own ideas is a very subtle change. I mean, it doesn't show up physically, but shows in the demeanor, in the way you present yourself. That I think is the true innovation for museums like yours, in that, the idea of the museum, the zoo, or the botanic garden, or the cultural institution in general should be of facilitating society and individuals to become better themselves, to understand their environment, their cultural environment, their ecological environment better. Ultimately, we humans are not taught anything. We learn. We
Mm-hmm.
only learn what we can deliver and what's interesting to us.
Yeah.
And the zoo is a fantastic setup because it's very beautiful. I have to say, I visited zoos all over the world. Woodland Park Zoo is probably one of the most beautiful zoos in the country or in the world. And it's also a fun place. Nobody comes to the zoo to have a bad time.
Mm-hmm.
And we make sure that people have a good time. But that combination of being in a nice setting where you're having fun, where you're going visiting with somebody that you like or you love, it's always that social and emotional connection that happens in a place where you want to be.
Yeah.
That enhances that learning, enhances that identity.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my favorite questions is, tell me of your zoo story. And everybody has a zoo story, most of them good, because it's a place, surprisingly, I mean, people spend very little time in the zoo uh, compared to time in school or time at family or time at work.
Yeah.
But everybody has and remembers a zoo story, whether here, the zoo, or anywhere else. It's a place where usually I say, people make memories, and those memories are usually positive and of connection with loved ones, of connections with animals, of connections with nature. And that connection is built by the experience. So I think that that's what makes zoos and museums relevant in today's society. It's not the telling the stories of the past or what happened around you, but really the idea that you create your own memories, your own stories, and your own environment around you.
No, yeah, I love what you're saying. There was one element for me, when I'm kind of sharing something similar is values. To me, are those the values. It is the distinction between the institutional format and how you follow things versus the values that you carry on in every single area that you do it, either internally with your board, with your team, or externally in many different ways. And even in marketing materials, those values is how do you connect them with people? And when it comes from an authentic perspective, you feel it. And how you feel it is through that personal connection. It's like, you know, it is not tangible. It's not something that you identify right away. But if somebody's connecting, like you say, imprinting memories, it comes from something. And then that is, you make it in a very personal experience, and you tap it into the human factor that allows people to truly feel it, to truly memorize everything that's happening. And when you combine not just experience with the location, and that's what I was sharing earlier, but like what you're also explaining on the idea of breaking down it's not about teaching, it's about learning. And that learning aspect goes from all of us. We never, ever stop learning and never finish to understand the complexities of what makes us ourselves, and how can we bring to the table the different elements for people to continue to connect in many different ways. That's what I love the term innovation that you're using, because it's an invitation to continue to do that. It's an invitation. Okay, you try this. Okay, let's try this other way. Or let's see what happens with this other way. And then it's the next for me is like a human exploration, the human factor that you're exploring. What about if we incorporate? I remember. Some members of your team, we were brainstorming, what can we do? And oh my God, I got so excited. Like, what if we tell like legends of the different geographical areas connected to animals? Like, for example, I'm from Mexico, and so I'm looking at the jaguar, and like, oh, can we bring in? I know all this jaguar element. Like, can we connect, like, legends globally connected with that? And so when you people come in, it will be all the heritage component and the history and then the fascination and the magic with the animals. They're looking at it with the characteristics of an animal, like a bear, or I mean, I'm looking at them in different areas. So my little inner child just went up bananas and thinking
Yes.
things like that. But yeah, it is a magical place. It is not just the building, it's not just the animals, it's not just the mission, but it's the people too. And you
Yes.
guys are doing a beautiful job out of it.
Well, thank you for that. I mean, it's a fantastic team, I have to say, and it's always great to be surrounded by people so passionate. Sometimes it makes it difficult because the passion kind of trips us over. But yes, it is fantastic to be with people that are really so dedicated to what they are. And most of the people that work at a zoo are invisible to the public, because the reality is that most of us toil, in the back. But everything from, maintenance workers to cleaning to food to animal care. I talk about that cultural construct of the zoo. People feel that zoo people are all they do is just feed the animals and clean the exhibits, and it's a miniature city. It has almost every component of a city. It has a security team, has an IT team, a facility, a carpenter team, vehicle department, a legal department, a fundraising department. So all these things are like a miniature city, and in that regard, um, uh, we hire people from all backgrounds and all walks of life and all professions.
How do you see moving forward with innovation? What is innovation to you? So maybe it's another, I love to try to find like a term that,
Yes.
that it could be open to interpretation. What is innovation to you?
So innovation for us is, and perhaps it's different for people, is to make society a better place. Really, that's what it is. It's not to find the latest gadget or the latest product. I mean, here we're surrounded by technology company, and they mistake innovation with gadgets or with software or with ideas. But the idea is that innovation really changes the way society functions, and true innovation makes society work better.
Yeah.
And basically, the role of cultural institutions is to be agents of social change for good, in a sense. Not always. I mean, you as you look at, in a heritage museum like yours, you look at the past and you find things that we were doing as a society that probably should not have been done. But the idea of innovation is that we use the power of connecting with people to make our world a better place, right? Just to put it in a very, very general terms. In terms of zoos, there's a million angles to innovation. And of course, the opposite of innovation is cultural inertia or cultural backwardness. And the idea is that as a cultural institution, you're always fighting inertia to drive positive change. And that's I think, the tug of war that we're in all the time.
Okay, I'm gonna have fun with this question. Are you ready?
Yes.
So what is your favorite animal in Venezuela, Spain, or in Pacific Northwest?
Oh, okay. That's difficult, and it's a question that I get all the time. As a biologist, I'm fascinated by just about every creature. I mean,
Okay.
I can stare at an anemone for hours. And I love all kinds of animals. There's a couple that I really are not my favorites, like leeches, for example. I don't really like leeches much. But I have to say, in Venezuela, I would say macaws or large parrots are an incredible source of inspiration. And in Caracas, the city, the capital, has the blessing of having thousands of macaws and parrots flying over every afternoon. So you can be driving on the highway and see flocks of parrots just flying over, and macaws. It's spectacular, beautiful tropical birds. Here in the Pacific Northwest, it depends on the day. I mean, the other day, a year ago, I took a Mexican friend because he wanted to see orcas. He's never seen orcas. And we went to see the orcas up in the islands, and it was magical. I mean, we got really close to them. I mean, they came close to us where you're not supposed to get close to the whales, but the whales came our way, and they were baby orcas playing with their mothers and all that. That's magical, I have to say. And then in Spain, I haven't been much in Spain. I have to say, I grew up as a child, and at that time, now I've gone back. I don't think I know Spain very well to say if I have a favorite animal, but it depends on the time of day. An animal in front of me, I love that animal in front of me. I don't have a favorite one.
I like the answer because it tells that you are open to not just be into what you like, but to what is everything around you. And so I like that answer a lot. We do have some sounds background, so I apologize for that, but hopefully we'll continue fine. The idea of having you here, and one of the reasons why I was so excited to have you here, is that, at the end of the day, we are serving our communities, and we're trying to do the best we can having that personal connection, and in many different ways. And I had the joy to invite different leaders, the cultural leaders around the region here and there. And it's always fascinating to see how the values of a person one way or another kind of dictates also how we're going to be moving forward with the institution. Tell us a little bit more about you here, and not just as a person in your job, but also as a human being. Who are you? I mean, you talk a little bit about the animals that you like, and that's probably the reason why I ask you.
Yeah.
That is, but tell us a little bit more. What about you and more of your story? We still got a few more minutes
Well,
to do it.
I'm the eternal immigrant. My family immigrated twice. I mean, I went from Spain to Venezuela, even though the language was still Spanish. The pronunciation was always different. So I've always had an accent. And then I came here to the US for graduate school, and I've been an immigrant here in the US. I have an accent in English. I speak 4 languages, but still have an accent in all 4. I think that I've been transient. I don't know. My mother used to say that we have a little bit of gypsy blood in ourselves, and I like to move around. My mother is from Andalusia, from Gitana, and there's always this idea that you can keep moving and that you can keep learning. And I'm curious. I continue to be curious all around. And having lived in 9 different cities, I have to say that, every place has a good side and a bad side. And my philosophy is that you always need to enjoy the good side, because the bad side comes by itself.
Yeah.
So I'm always in celebration mode. I'm always looking for what's next. I don't dwell in the past a lot. And I love, new ideas, new people, new animals, new plants. I worked in many, many different countries. Half of my professional careers was in international development and conservation. So I lived and visited lots of different countries, and I love the idea of experiencing different cultures, different food. Food is always fascinating. Different art, different languages, different customs. I like that part. The price of that is that, of course, you have the sense that you may not belong 100% to a place or a culture or a language. And I don't see that as a problem. I mean, in a sense, I like this idea of being part of everything, and not having these super strong allegiances to something physical or something cultural. The idea that you are from everywhere and that you owe yourself to everybody and everything around you is, for me, kind of a way of existence, in a sense.
Yeah. Have some issues right now, and so we're probably going to be having our interview shorter. So I apologize for that. But before we end, one of the elements that, like, but also you say, like my daughter, she's almost 18, and I always tell her that it's not about the universe going around us; it's about us going through the universe. It's us, the little particle that we just flowing everything around, and it's not about how we perceive and interpret things. It's more about how we adjust to things. And then that saying, it is not the strongest or the fastest that survives. It is the one that adapts the best.
Yeah.
And so the adaptation internally. And I don't think that I don't like to box myself. Oh, I'm only Mexican, or I'm only a woman, or I'm only this or that. I think that all of us are a sum on many different things that makes us. And so, yes, I might be an immigrant. And one thing that we have in common, Salguero is a Spanish name.
Yes. yes.
But also because of the Civil War and everything, my family migrated to Mexico because of the same reason.
Same,
And it's the
with
same
my
story.
family, yes.
Yeah. And so when we have that migration story taking place, and yes, the sense of belonging, but I think the sense of belonging, it starts first with you. Are you okay knowing that you are an always ongoing piece of art that is going to be adding to it instead of diminishing, and that you're going to be adapting to whatever is currently happening in front of you, and the magic and the uniqueness of who you are, no matter where you're located, will always be there too. And so there's this, I don't know, I hope that through our work, and I hope that through the service that we provide to our communities, that we can continue to nurture and cultivate those values. And once again, I'm just so happy to have you here. One last question, and then we're probably going to be ended up. Do you have any exciting projects or something happening at your museum that you want to share?
Always. The zoo is always a busy place. Right now, for example, we're in the middle of a winter lantern show, but lanterns, which is become one of the favorite light shows of the holidays. And it's 92 acres, so there's thousands of lanterns around, and it's a fantastic event for the whole family. At night, we have these long nights here in the winter, so that's great. For 2025, of course, a huge, every year we bring new things. So we're going to have a fantastic new dinosaur exhibit that's going to be only for the summer. So it's one time only. We're opening a new reptile exhibit that has been closed for almost a year. So it's a fantastic new exhibit that we refurbish an old building, and it's now all full of new animals. We have Komodo dragons and Philippine dragons and all kinds of really
That is so
interesting
cool.
things. And then we're in the middle of a big construction project. We're going to finish in June of 2026 is the forest trailhead. And this is one of the first exhibits that we're changing from being a geography or a taxonomy of animals, but to talk about forest as the lungs of the planet and the relationship between forest and climate. So what's happening with animals and what's happening with climate is also what's happening to humans. So the idea of creating this connection between what you do, the products that you use, the choices that you make, the way you vote, the way you engage with society, it also affects forest and it affects climate. So we're going to have animals from all over the planet. We're going to have tree kangaroos from Papua New Guinea, red pandas from the Himalayas, kias from New Zealand, lizards from Indonesia, and at the same time talking about the fact that we live in a rainforest. Most people here in the Pacific Northwest don't realize that we live in the largest temperate rainforest in the world, and that we are humans, and the quality of life that we live here is because we live in a rainforest. So the idea of rainforest as helping people, but also rainforest as the lungs of the planet that stabilize climate, that create this opportunity for carbon to get out of the atmosphere and reduce the effects of climate change is really important. So it's the first exhibit that we have on a theme related to wildlife and climate. So I'm very proud of that.
It sounds amazing, exciting. I
It's
hope
gonna be.
everyone likes the idea, the concept. I'm already excited to see it.
Yeah.
And so it sounds fascinating. And thank you for all you do. Thank you for bringing new ideas. Thank you for bringing you and your team and your organization, the whole team, the whole family, just bringing these amazing projects the ones that you've already been doing, the ones that you're doing right now, and the ones that are coming next. So
Well,
thank
thank you for being our partner. Thank you for being part of the family.
Oh,
We are always glad to collaborate, and I know our team has been here in the Highline neighborhood several times, and it's one of our focal community outreach programs. So we're very glad to be part of this, and we're very glad to be part of the community. So thank you for the invitation.
thank you. Thank you, everyone. It was wonderful to have you here and have him share his story. And I hope you can check out his website and his institution and know that all the new things are coming up. Thank you, everyone. Good night. Bye.
Our Highline Voices, 106.5 KQWZ LP FM. We envision ourselves sitting at a round table where no one is the leader and stories are heard respectfully, regardless of gender, age, sexual orientation, disabilities, or ethnicity. Our mission is we collect, preserve, and tell the stories of the Highline region and its people. We want to extend our mission outside the walls of the museum. Our Highline Voices represents us all, honoring our past, celebrating our present, and uniting to cultivate our future. This project allows us to reach out to demographics who might be unable to visit the museum. People with disabilities, low-income families, people who don't trust museums, and more. In partnership, we are launching a locally programmed new radio station at the museum, featuring recorded and live Highline's heritage, history, culture, arts, and more. Are you interested in sharing your story? Email director@highlinemuseum.org.